Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. If we would all stand, face the flag, handle your heart, we'll do the pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heather, will you take roll call, please?
Commissioner Dibdall,
Here.
Commissioner Corbett.
Here.
Commissioner Wire.
Here.
Commissioner Shaw,
Here.
Bennett.
Here. We have the agenda in front of us. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Any further comments or discussion? Not hearing or seeing any, all in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. We'll move down to appearances, acknowledgement. Jameson, you want a presentation and discussion of the community service result?
Okay, so I wanted to share with the commission and the public some of the findings we had from our survey that we've done recently. As a result of the survey, we collected 416 responses. And it was open for about a month throughout the month of October. We'd asked for some background information so we know who is responding to these surveys, and you can see a nice bell curve there for age of the respondents, with the most popular answer, most common answer being that age group of 35 to 44. About a third of the respondents were in that age group, and then going down from there each way. We also asked where they lived, as we figured it's important to know who's filling out these surveys, whether they live in the city itself or in the area. And about 3/4 of the respondents lived within the city of Madison, and 1/4 lived outside of the city, but within Lake County. And only 8 of the respondents lived outside of Lake County entirely, about 2% there. Asked a couple of questions in regards to what their satisfaction is with the community of Madison. The first way I phrase it is rate your overall satisfaction, going from very satisfied down to very dissatisfied. And we were happy to see the bulk of our population was satisfied with the community here in Madison. Between the very satisfied and the satisfied respondents, there was about 3/4 of, right at 75% of the people had said they were satisfied or very satisfied. Compared to the other side of the spectrum, dissatisfied or very dissatisfied, it was only about 9%, or excuse me, 6% were on the other end of the category. So I felt that was a good response for our community. The fourth question was, kind of putting it in different ways, just simply, would you recommend living in Madison to others? Just yes or no. And almost 90% said yes, they would recommend living in Madison to others. About 12% said no. I then asked a couple open-ended questions that geared towards what changes or improvements people would like to see in the community. Here's just a simple word cloud that SurveyMonkey, the surveying site, did for us. We had almost 300 people answer this question, so it's difficult to summarize it all at once, but I tried to do it in a few different pages here. I pulled out some direct quotes from the answers on what amenities would you like to see added in Madison. A lot of things regarding to Parks and Rec. Quite a few respondents spoke towards wanting an addition of another grocery store, infrastructure on roads, daycare, bike paths, shopping options, department stores. There's quite a few people that asked about the Madison Aquatic Center. So I felt it prudent to share kind of a spectrum of some of the responses we got there. If you want to look at a summary of all the responses, I categorized them into a few different areas and then arranged them here by the most common. So the most common response was people wanting to see some kind of addition in regards to shopping or new businesses in town. Not everybody's going to agree on some of these things. For instance, we had 13 people say they wanted a Walmart, and we had at least 2 people specifically say they did not want a Walmart. So of course, you're never gonna make everybody happy, but just gathering information at this point where we're at. Dining was also very, very common, people wanting to have more restaurants. And again, here, we had some people say, I want fast food, and we had some people say we don't want fast food. So you get quite the spectrum there, but in general, all those people did say they wanted more dining of some sort. 117 people said they wanted another grocery store, an improved grocery store in some way, shape, or form as well. Parks and rec and trails, kind of categorized all that together, we had 77 there. Youth and children, people wanting more activities for kids and teens to do, wanting more daycares in town. You can see a few other categories as well, as far as events, transportation, and then just miscellaneous comments that people had put in. The next question was, what amenities would you like to see improved in town or removed entirely? So trying to get people thinking about what we have in town already existing and that you'd like to see improved or cleaned up or possibly removed. And a lot of the responses here went towards kind of code enforcement related comments or just improvements for more parks in town or more trails in town in particular. I pulled some comments out here. People wanting to see more bike paths, more funding there. There was a lot of comments on the outdoor pool again, which makes sense as the question is asking about what do you like to see improved or refurbished in town. Shopping, some of the kind of same categories that we saw with the previous question. And then similarly, here's those categories that we kind of threw from that. So you can look through and try to analyze a little more easily. A lot for parks and recs, general park improvements, field improvements. I think I had trails as its own category here. 13 people wanting more bikes, trails, walking trails, improved creek maintenance. The next question asked everybody to rate from good, average, or poor various aspects of Madison community. So there's about 30 different categories here, quite the range that we asked people to look at. And overall, things I think turned out pretty well as far as ratings. There's quite a few here, so to try to analyze a little bit further, I put them into, and here's a graph showing that. So the more green you see is the good, the more yellow you see is bad. And fortunately, a lot more green out there than yellow, I believe. I weighted these and ranked them just to try to weed out or try to see what rose to the top and what fell to the bottom. So good responses, I gave 3 points. Average, I gave 2, and poor, I gave 1. You just added them up. And the top ranked areas that came out, the top 5 are shown there. Fire protection, emergency, first response, top 2, library services, community friendliness. Happy to see people think we're a friendly community, and then general community safety. Certainly things that you made me happy to see come out on top of what people are seeing. Looking at the poor rankings, they're ranging from 0 to 2%, very low ratings on the poor side of things, which is a good thing. Top areas of concern. So of course, we want to see what areas we think we can improve upon or that the public needs to have more information on. Public transportation came out number 1, shopping options, streets, swimming pools, and entertainment opportunities. I think these are some things that I use for my own interpretation or thinking as far as the budget goes this year. Where is a good place to put some of our money? Streets certainly came out on top there, and I think public works makes sense if that's an area of concern for our community. Question 8 was, what projects or improvements would you support? So we had 8 or 9 specific projects or areas here listed that we know as a city have been areas of concern or that we have interest in and wanted to see what people would support. So there's kind of 2 questions in this area. This first question says, which ones would you support? People could say yes to all of them, or they could say no to all of them, no limit on that. And there's also another category. Street improvements came up on top with nearly 70% of the respondents saying that they would support more improvements on streets. And then the second one was outdoor pool improvements. And third was daycare, it looks like, are the top 3 that came out there. And then the next question is the same list of projects as the former one, but now we're saying what projects are your top priorities. You can select up to 3. You can select 0, 1, 2, or 3. So that helps people to prioritize what they would see one project happen over another one. And here, street improvements again was a priority for everybody, not everybody, for many respondents, with 47% of respondents on this question saying that they would classify street improvements in their top 3 priorities. Second was daycare at 38%, and then third was outdoor pool improvement for expansion at 37%. Question 10, how would you rate the services provided by the city of Madison? So now we are moving from the community level down to the city as an entity and asking the public how we're doing. And here we had 5 options on each of these. You can go excellent, good, average, poor, or very poor. And I ranked them similarly like I did with the previous question to see what rose to the top or fell to the bottom. Top 3 areas: library services, fire protection, and emergency response. It's really excellent to see the responses there. If you look at library services, we had 0 people put poor or very poor. Same with fire protection. And then on emergency response, nobody said very poor, only 4 said poor. So looking at that bottom end of the spectrum, virtually nobody ranking those areas as poor or very poor. Top areas of concern, the top 3 came up were creek maintenance, code enforcement, and snow plowing. So these are areas that we know that the public wants to see improvement on, or at least more information on. Even then, I think it's important to note that this is comparing those 3 areas against other areas of city operation. If you look at creek maintenance, the most popular answer was still average. People aren't saying we're doing good, but not saying we're doing bad either. So room for improvement there, but average is still the most common response there. Same with code enforcement. When you look at code enforcement, actually more people said that we're doing excellent or good versus people that said we're doing poor or very poor. So in the scheme of things, I'm still not coming across too bad. And in snow plowing, the most common response was good, that more people think we're doing good than any of the other 5 categories. And when you add them up there, it's still not looking too terrible. That being said, these are still areas for improvement for us. On the creek maintenance, in this year's budget, there's a little extra money to help have a part-time person to do some mowing to help make sure that the creeks are maintained in that manner. In code enforcement, we do have that position listed for code enforcement officer, which I think will be able to help address both these areas in some way, shape, or form. I think it still would be prudent for us to maybe try to communicate to the public more. So I think before the end of the year, at least on creek maintenance, I'll work with staff to present to commission on what our activities have been going on in that area this year, and then gather feedback to that. So we'll look more into that one more closely, since it was the one that fell to the bottom. Same question, just the graph showing the results there. We asked a few questions on our website, since we are moving towards a new website provider, wanting to know what people find difficult to find or what they're most commonly looking for. And so I'll just breeze through that quickly, but in general, people found that our site was more easy to navigate than not, and that they were able to find what they were looking for. But of course, that wasn't 100% either. So ways that we can focus on the new website in terms of what we need to make sure is easily available to our public. Asking whether they pay their bills online, if they'd use online form submissions if it was available, that sort of thing. Question 12, if the library was looking at adding more services or spaces, what would people use? And a variety of options there. The most common answers were meeting collaboration space and outdoor space for library programs and activities, the 2 areas that came out to be more desired than some of the others. The remainder of the questions, there's about 5 of them here I'll go through, are all related to the community center. So the first one, what services are you most likely to use at the community center? And we noted that all these options are available, but wanting to know what was kind of the most desired. And the 2 that came out by far was the walking track and then the pool. We asked what times people would prefer to use different activities at the community center. Family swim, you can see, is highly sought after during the evening hours from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. But in general, the other activities, people prefer that evening hours or the early morning were the more common times. So that's beneficial for us to know when people are looking at using the community center. We asked if people were aware of our 24-hour studio, which is directly above our heads right now. And about 60% of people were aware of the studio, and then 6% using it, 53%, 54% not using it, with the last 40% people not aware of the studio. From there, if people answered that they do not use the studio, whether they're aware of it or not, we asked them if it's something they'd be interested in, and 2/3 of them said yes, and 1/3 said no. Excuse me, 1/3 said yes, they were interested, and 2/3 said no, they would not be interested. That tells us that there's 91 people there who don't currently utilize it, who may be interested in it. And for the ones in the previous question that said that they currently utilize the studio, there's only 17 of them, but we asked them, can you rate it for us on a up to 5-star rating? And nobody gave it as 1 or 2 star. They all said 3 to 5, with the average being 4-star rating. Last question, again, community center, would you be interested in a membership if your employer offered a wellness benefit program and you received a discount? Almost 3/4 of respondents said yes, they would be interested in membership. So quite a few questions that were geared towards our operations, helping our staff to inform their decision making. But then some of the middle ones in there in terms of what improvements we're interested in. This was all started with the intent of helping the commission decide where to be putting funds towards, not just next year, but as we are doing our 5-year capital improvement plan. I'm expecting to be getting a draft from ISG on that soon. So that is probably enough of me talking. Any questions?
Thanks for the info. Yeah, spent some time going through it. Bother you about it later, probably.
What, do we have a plan to continue with surveys, or what are you thinking there?
We can. Whatever information that we'd like to gather from the public, we have the capability to do more like this. I could certainly see maybe the community center would want to do a survey on their members, or maybe the city would want to do a survey of our employees. There's anything we can do. So if there's something that the commission's looking for us to survey on, let me know, and I'd be happy to put something together. Any questions, comments?
Good. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you, Jameson. Yep. We'll move down to consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Move down into unfinished business. Second reading ordinance number 1640, 2022 appropriations.
I know Sonia isn't in here tonight. She had some small changes to the ordinance, but nothing substantial, just kind of filling in some of the blanks from information we didn't have available to us last week. The one point that she did bring up was the chamber, and we've got Eric with us here tonight, was requesting an additional increase of $10,000. Eric, do you want to speak towards that?
Sure. I also have some graphs and stats, but not as many as Jameson had.
That's probably good.
Well, just real quick. So our chamber board of directors had our strategic planning meeting October 25th, so 2 weeks ago. A lot of good changes came out of that. One of the things that they asked me to bring in front of you is a possible increase in what our original ask was for funding, going from 85,000 to 95,000. A few things that I kind of wanted to touch on. You know, we're not the sole driver of sales tax revenue at the chamber, but I feel like we're a pretty large portion of that. If you just take a look from September of 19 to September of 21, sales tax revenue has gone up almost $250,000, a little over that. Some new things that came out of our strategic planning. December 1st, we're gonna launch a Discover Madison app that will essentially take the place of our area guide that we typically have printed. There's several reasons for that. One is South Dakota tourism is making it a little more difficult to get those dispersed across the state. And we feel this app is going to be a lot more beneficial to our community members with an events calendar and things like that. If you turn to there's 3 pages here, but if you turn to the final page, the sales tax revenue, that gives you an idea of where our sales tax revenue has been since 17. The 2021 obviously only has the first 9 months included in that. I looked back at 2020 and we were just under $1 million in sales tax revenue in Q4 last year. So conservatively, if you just put in, $800,000 for the final quarter this year, we'll be ahead of where we were at in 2020. So you can see sales tax revenue is continuing to go up each year. A few other things, the bid tax that we have now collecting with the hotels, that's gonna only increase the number of events and conferences and things like that we can bring to town. I've talked to Coach Ricky and Mr. Dittman at DSU about enhancing some of their athletic events, increasing maybe a couple of those events to 2-day events to get people to stay overnight. We were just awarded, we being the city of Madison as a whole, we were just awarded the 23, 24, 26, and 27 state amateur basketball tournament, the same tournament that we hosted in February of this year. So that'll be coming to Madison again, 4 out of the next 6 years, not in 22, but then 4 out of the next 5. And that's a bid that I submitted to the state association, and we're awarded that. Some of the other minor things, burger brawl that we did in May, that generated approximately 2,000 burgers in 8 days that people purchased. I think all of you have been down for at least one downtown in Madtown and seen what that event has grown into. Our facade improvement program that we partnered with LAIC on, there's been approximately $35,000 in grant money that has been paid out to completed projects. There's been 9 projects that have been completed. $35,000 awarded, but the total project cost has been just under $100,000. So people are spending more than what they have asked for in that grant money. I guess my main thing would be the increase that we're asking for would help what is essentially the marketing arm of the city keep advancing and moving some of our current events and enhancing them and looking at continuing to bring people to town. Anybody has any questions? I'll be more than happy to answer them.
So there isn't a specific cost to warrant the 10 grand? You guys had a planning session and just decided?
Well, one of the reasons we had talked about it is the cost of business is continuing to go up, as all of us know. We have not asked for an increase in funding since 2017. We really would prefer not to have to raise our membership dues to cover the extra cost of doing business. If we look back at 2020, it's a good problem. I mean, we did $6,000 more Mad Money cards than what we normally do. And at 60 cents a piece, that's a good chunk of change that we didn't have in our budget. Obviously, we have reserves and things like that to cover it. But we certainly don't want to keep dipping into that either. Printing costs are going up, so our advertising dollars are, with South Dakota tourism, Southeast tourism. The price of those ads continually go up each year.
I'm not a huge fan of modifying the budget on the second reading. I'd be a lot more comfortable if you had a need, even if right away in January you came and asked for 10 grand. And I'd hate to see us get in a habit of having people jump in on the second reading and up their requests. Maybe I'm just being curmudgeon-y, but that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'd look at changing it between the first and second reading, like if the state were to change a law that dramatically affected our income or something like that. I think it's kind of a big deal to amend the budget for the second reading. Is my thoughts.
Yeah, I know the timing certainly isn't ideal by any means. That is one request that came out of our planning session.
You guys have a planning session every year?
No. Every 3-4 years.
Sounds about right.
That'd be a question for Sonia, but is there a way of approving a $10,000 request without amending the budget at this time?
You would need to amend the ordinance, which is certainly something within your purview if you wish to do so. The first step, no matter what you do tonight, is to make a motion to approve the second reading of the ordinance.
So we have an item under new business. Why couldn't we just give them 10 grand under that?
Utilizing cash in 21, is what you're thinking, or
Yeah,
I think you'd have the authority to do that.
right. So if we wanted to give it to them now, we could. Or we could ask them to come back in the next fiscal year and do it then.
I guess I'm in support of giving them the 10 grand. I mean, I think the graphs speak for themselves as far as the chamber's contribution and the way things are going as far as the sales tax revenue. So
I was looking at the Mad Money loaded. I'm assuming December is a
Very big.
portion of that.
Yeah, so if we take out 2020, because I mean 2020 was off the charts. But 18, 19 is usually around $40,000 in December loaded. A lot of employers will buy them as Christmas gifts and things like that. People will buy them just individually as Christmas gifts. We always do the Monday after Thanksgiving, we always do a big Mad Money promotion where we give $15 out for every 100 purchased. With a cap, obviously.
So we're just looking for a motion on the second reading.
Right, I'd recommend making a motion to approve the second reading of this ordinance and then have a second. And at that point, if somebody would like to make a motion to amend to include the $10,000 for next year, I got the language for that. And you can vote on the amendment up or down, and then you can move on to the final approval of the ordinance. And then since it is listed under new business, if that money wasn't given in 22 and you wanted to take action in some other way other than through the budget ordinance, you'd have the authority to do that under new business. Does that make sense?
I think we got another week before we need to have the second reading. Because we have to have it done for payroll, right?
Yeah, I believe Sonia said we could wait to pass the second reading next week. If you don't feel you have the information to pass it to me.
I guess I would like to table that if we could. We don't know where we're standing at negotiations. We haven't even talked about, are we increasing utility rates yet? Or any rate change? I mean, I don't know how you can put a budget together without knowing either one of those two things.
I think we'll know that next week. Make a motion to approve the second reading of ordinance number 1640-2022 appropriations.
Second.
Any further comments or discussion?
Now's the time, if you wanted to increase for the chamber for 22, you make a motion to amend now. And if you don't, then you just move on and vote. And Adam, everything okay? Just want to make sure you're in the loop.
Yeah, I can hear you. I have to abstain from the chamber vote because I'm on the board.
Okay. Right now, there is no chamber vote, just the general.
Right. If we get to that point, though, I have to abstain from voting on that amendment.
I'll make a motion to amend it and include the $10,000 for the Greater Madison Area Chamber of Commerce's request.
I'll second it.
To clarify, Sonia, I'd asked her for the language. The amendment would be to increase general fund promotions by $10,000 and increase cash applied by $10,000. And that would be what you're looking to do.
Any other comments, discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. Heather, will you take roll call vote?
Commissioner Corbin,
Aye.
Commissioner Dibbell,
Aye.
Commissioner Wire,
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw,
I'm aye on the appropriation and I'm abstain on the increase of the chamber.
Okay, that's what we're doing now.
and Mayor Denner.
Nay. Motion carried.
You know, that was
Thank
just
you.
the motion to amend. Yep, so we're back to the original motion as amended.
Let's do it.
There's a lot taken out of vote on that, right?
Unless there's further discussion.
Is there any further discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor of the second reading ordinance number 1640-2022 appropriations, signify by aye.
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 Nay. All opposed, aye. You take another roll call vote.
Yes, Commissioner Wire,
Aye.
Commissioner Corbin,
Aye.
Commissioner Dibbell,
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw,
Aye.
and Mayor Denner.
Nay. Motion carried. Move down into new business. Item one's already taken care of. Number two, discuss and approve facility plan update agreement with Banner Associates.
Yeah, I can outline that. So staff have been working with Banner to prepare projects to add on to the state water plan. That is an action that is needed before we could apply for funding. And it's anticipated that there's going to be funding flowing through the state to the federal government with their American Rescue Plan Act funds. In order to submit that funding application, we need to make sure that our preliminary engineering reports, they're called PERS, they are updated to reflect the projects that we are requesting funding for. So those PERS would include water, sanitary sewer, and storm sewer. Banner submitted an agreement to complete this work on the PERS for An hourly not to exceed amount of around $11,000. Trying to find the exact number. There was $11,900, so just under $12,000 is the agreement up to that amount. I think that's all I'll say. I'll stand by for any questions.
Do I have a motion to approve the facility plan update agreement with Banner Associates?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions?
Looks like upgrade projects are pretty popular according to the survey, so happy to do this.
Yep.
Pretty straightforward.
Okay. Hearing any other, all in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Item number 3. Got Randy Minnick here, discuss and approve increasing number of volunteer firemen from 30 to 32. Want to bring us up to speed on that one?
Yeah, thank you. Here on behalf of our department, we're asking for the commission's approval to increase our number from 30 to 32. If you recall, last week, we put 2 additional volunteers on, and that maxed us out at our 30 volunteers. Or 30 firemen, I should say, 29 volunteers, 30 with myself. And anyway, we have a number of other good candidates that want on the fire department, and we would like to put them on also. In our bylaws, we give our volunteer firefighters 2 years to become a certified firefighter. And there's a course coming up in Brookings in about 2 to 3 weeks that our 2 new firemen that got put on last week are gonna start attending. And we would like to put 2 more on. And so they all attend class together, and we will have a couple retire within the next year or 2 because our bylaws do read at the age of 65, you got to get off the fire department. So we'd just like to get them up and running, get them all certified and trained before we lose a couple more in the next year or 2.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to increase the firefighters from 30 to 32.
Any further comments or discussion?
Is there a rule of thumb by population or
No, there isn't.
other communities? Where do we sit?
We're probably average, you know, Fort Pierre, they have 70 firemen, Fort Pierre, you know, yeah, just different departments have certain numbers and, yeah. But all of us in Lake County are all at 25 to 30.
And 32 is a good number for you, Randy? You don't feel like you need more than that?
No.
Okay.
Yep, we'd be content with 32.
Okay.
That sounds more like succession planning to me, and I know as a firefighter, I know the value of having those old duffers around, so I think it's a good deal.
Well, you're very popular with the community, so thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments, discussion? Not hearing any, all in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Any
Thank you.
public comment?
Thanks, Randy.
Great. After the meeting, I want to see.
No.
Okay. Announcements. I have one announcement, just want to let people know what's going on the RD projects. We did put down the first mat of asphalt on Liberty from 5th to 9th. And we put the first layer down on Summit from 3rd to 5th. They're going to try and get back, or they're coming back next tomorrow to do the second, and those should be done. was also talked about putting curb and gutter in on Lincoln tomorrow. And then that will pretty much do us. We are going to leave probably 2 blocks on Fifth Street unpaved. And Lincoln will be unpaved. But people will have access to their driveways. Unless by some chance we don't get the snow and we get some nice weather that they can come back and finish it, but it doesn't look like that's gonna happen. That's an update for our deal. Are there any other announcements? Hearing, it is 6:13. Do I have a motion to go into exec session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, signify by aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Thank you.